Hey guys, I hope you're all doing well. It's Saturday, so I'm looking at the epistle for today, and it's James 5, verses 7 to 10. So, one of the first things he tells us there is to be patient. Be patient until the coming of the Lord. And he does something after that I'm really thankful for. He gives us an analogy. He says, see how the farmer waits for the precious fruit of the earth, being patient about it until it receives the early and the late rains. So, what he's actually telling us is what it means to be patient. It doesn't mean to sit in the on the front porch in a rocking chair. No, that's not what the farmer's doing while he's waiting for the rains. He is being patient. And he has to wait for the rains, and the rains are provided by God. So there's work that God has to do, but there's also work that the farmer has to do. He's got to plant it, he's got to till it, he's got to weed it, he's got to do all the things necessary. He's got to make sure that he's not being overtaken with insects and everything else. So his waiting is not sitting around doing nothing. No, it's a busy season of time. He does what he has to do in order to ensure the crop, and then waits on God to do what God has to do that he can't make happen on his own. So that's what it means to wait patiently. It means to wait like a farmer waits for the rain. But there's a lot of work that has to be done in order to get that ready to make the waiting worthwhile, right? I mean, if you don't do your side of the work, it doesn't matter how much it rains or when it rains. It's not going to make any difference at all if you haven't done your side of the work. And so that's how we wait. And Jesus says it a million different times about how to be expectantly awaiting his return. He tells all kinds of parables about it. And he always indicates you've been given something to do. Get at it, stay at it. And that's how you wait. You can get into a whole lot less trouble in your waiting if you're actually engaged in doing the work that you've been given to do. And then he says, so like that, you also be patient. And then he goes on to say, James does, establish your hearts for the coming of the Lord is at hand. In that, if I had one thing that I could encourage you in, it would be to establish your hearts. And that takes work. And I'll tell you how much work it took for me. So I went to seminary. I was a convinced believer, but I wasn't. I would not say that I was established in my faith. I hate having to admit that, but it's absolutely true. But what happened in seminary was I learned. I learned and I grew and I became solid and established in my faith. And what's the funny part about it is this. So after my first year, we had to sit down and meet with Chuck Murphy, who ended up being my bishop. We each of us had to go sit down and meet with him and talk about, so how's it going? Well, at least I did. I don't know if everybody else did or not, to be honest with you. But I told him, I said, it's going well. In addition to class, I'm in like it's literally 6 small groups. He looked at me and said, that just sounds like hell to me, John. I said, no, it's great. I'm learning from all these people. I could see their passion. I could see the strength of their faith, and I wanted what they had. It was a great blessing to me to be a part of that parish because people were actually pursuing the Lord, pursuing truth, and believed that He was still at work in the world today. And so it transformed me to be part of that. But it was an investment. I was fortunate that I had the time to be able to put into all that. But today we have a million different options, right? There's this thing called YouTube, and there's really good content on YouTube, believe it or not. And I'm not talking about mine. I'm talking about a lot of other really good content. It's very simple to go out there and find great teaching on the internet if you want to, you know. And that's the thing. If we're going to establish ourselves, that's what we have to do. It's basketball season, so I'm thinking about this. Establish yourself in terms of basketball. So the most difficult thing in the world to do is to call either a charge or a block on somebody, right? So ball, if the offense has the ball and a guy runs over you, what is that? Is it a block? Were you blocking him, or were you was he charging against you? So it's a foul, an offensive foul, or a defensive foul, and the answer comes down to one thing, and that's establishment. It's the same principle of establishment. Because it's, did you establish your defensive position? Were you in it, protecting a spot, and then this guy ran over you? And if so, that's a charge. If you didn't get there quickly enough and didn't establish your defensive position, then it's a block. So What we're intended to do is to establish our position, to be firmly rooted in what we know to be the truth, and to hold our ground. After we've done everything, he says, to stand. And that's the thing that we've been given to do. And you know what the world needs more than anything else? It needs people who are established in their faith, who know what they believe and can defend their position. And it's important that we show the world that faith is not some, hopeful belief in something in which there is no, for which there's no evidence. That's a horrible thing to think of if you're thinking about faith. There's plenty of evidence for it. So we have the evidence, we have the strength, we have the Holy Spirit. That's how we establish ourselves, is that we've got to feed the Spirit, though, rather than feeding everything else in our lives. And if we do that, if we focus on the important things, on the eternal thing, and we pursue Him, then we will be established in our faith, and we will be an immovable object against any force that comes against us. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen.